Welcome back to the Dr. Jonette channel. Today we are making a super easy, delicious, looks like you spent the whole day slaving in the kitchen, but it only takes about less than a half hour. So let's get baking and make our coconut dream bars. These dream bars are great for a special occasion or just as a dessert that you want to whip up in a hurry if you've got some guests coming. We're going to start by adding a half a cup of melted butter to 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs and also 1/2 of a cup of ground or actually shredded coconut. What I've done is I've taken this coconut here, put it in a food processor, pulsed the food processor a few times until you have this kind of fine, it's not fine as coconut flour, but it's about the same consistency of the graham cracker crumbs, and it adds a nice extra coconut flavor to our coconut dream bars crust. So we're going to mix that all in, and then I'm going to put it into a baking pan. This is a 9 by 9 inch baking pan. I love USA pans, baking pans, cake pans. This is actually a cake pan. If you go to my website, growwithdrjonette.com, and click on the shop button, you'll be able to see this baking pan and purchase it. It's a great quality pan, and I love that it has the square sides to it. Now that we have our parchment into our baking pan, let's add our graham cracker crumbs. I may not need all of these graham cracker crumbs, we'll see. I like a somewhat substantial crust. Yeah, we're going to add them all. It gives us about a total of 2 cups of crumbs for the crust. Just spread them out, and then I take something to flatten them. You can flatten them with your hands. Flatten them with the bottom of a cup. And I have this thing, which is a smooth on one side and pointed on the other side. It's actually a meat tenderizer, but you can flip it over and use it to flatten your crumbs in your baking pan if you have it. It's also in my shop on my website if you want to get it. I love it. Use it a lot for pounding things, flattening things, and we don't bake the crust in this recipe until we have all the things added to the top of it, which is part of what makes it such a quick and easy recipe. So we're going to start layering the ingredients. I'm going to start with 2 cups of pecans, and the reason you want a parchment in this in your pan is it makes it so much easier to get the bars out once they're cooled, so that you can then cut them into heart shapes. You don't have to cut them into heart shapes. You could just cut them into squares or rectangles or anything like that. But if you want to make it a special dessert, go ahead and cut it into heart shapes. After the pecans, I'm adding some mini chocolate chips, dark mini chocolate chips. I like the dark chocolate, it's better for your brain. So for my SIS Simplest Smart tip, if you're baking a bar or a dessert and you know it might be difficult to get out of your pan, add a parchment sling to the bottom of your pan. What I like to do is I like to spray the bottom of the pan with some non-stick spray, add the parchment sling, and kind of pat it down because it helps it stick to the bottom of the pan, and then spray it again once it's in the pan. After that, go ahead and add whatever you were going to add to the pan. And now for a special layer, I quite often will put a few butterscotch chips, maybe peanut butter, Reese's peanut butter chips, but I found some caramel chips when I was at the grocery store this morning, and I was like, ooh, caramel chocolate coconut bars, that sounds delicious. So we are making caramel chocolate coconut dream bars. And the last layer is our coconut layer. You probably have never seen coconut that looks quite like this in the store, because Farmer Fred takes fresh coconuts and makes these wonderful coconut pieces that are great. That they are actually what I chopped up and put into the graham cracker crust. And if you have access to a fresh coconut, I mean, you can buy them in the store every once in a while, but if you have access to a fresh coconut and want to make yourself some of these healthy and delicious coconut chips, go to growwithdrjonette.com and click on the recipe for coconut nutrition, and you will be able to see Farmer Fred. In fact, I'll put a link down below in the caption to this particular recipe, where you can go to it and make your own delicious coconut pieces using Farmer Fred's custom method. So the last step for our coconut dream bars is to add some sweetened condensed milk to the dream bars. And I'm just pouring them all over. You just want to kind of pour it out over top so that all the area gets some of that delicious sweetened condensed coconut milk. No, not sweetened condensed coconut milk, just sweetened condensed milk. I don't know if they actually make sweetened condensed coconut milk. That would be delicious if they do. And the next step is we're going to go ahead and put this in the 350 degree oven. Before we started, I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. So it is now hot, and this is ready to go into the oven. After you put your dream bars in the oven, set a timer for 14 minutes. Check the dream bars at 14 minutes, and if the interior is melted, the chocolate, the caramel chips, if the chips are melted and the top is a nice golden brown, your bars are done. If they look like they need to go a little bit longer, you can bake them for as long as 18 minutes at 350 degrees. So while our coconut dream bars are baking, let's talk about our neuronutrition nugget. Coconut has something called MCT. It stands for medium chain triglycerides. Medium chain triglycerides are important for our brain because they can be converted to ketones. Ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier and act as an alternate source of energy for the brain. Our brain is only 3% of our body weight, but uses 20% of all of the energy that we take in. So it is a huge energy user. And if it runs out of energy, it can look like you're having a stroke. In other words, it starts malfunctioning. In fact, as a physician that works in an emergency department, when we have a patient that comes in that looks like they're having a stroke, maybe they can't talk, their speech is slurred, they have numbness, weakness, and their brain is not functioning, the first thing that we check when they come in is what is their sugar level. Because if they're a diabetic and their brain ran out of energy, which for a brain is usually sugar, glucose, then their brain malfunctions or quits working. Now if their sugar is low, of course we give them sugar, and as soon as their brain gets energy again, it starts working normally. So coconuts are a good source of MCTs, which can be converted to ketones and used by the brain for energy as an alternate energy source. In addition to being an alternate energy source, MCTs have also been shown to be supportive of some very important and key neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine. Both of these, dopamine is the reward neurotransmitter. It helps us feel good and helps motivate us. And serotonin is also one of those neurotransmitters that elevates our mood and helps us feel better. So MCTs are important in regulating our emotions, regulating our mood, helping us feel better, and helping our brain stay functioning and working properly.
Our coconut dream bars are all baked. I actually baked them the full 18 minutes. I checked them at 14 minutes and they weren't quite ready yet. And so I baked them another four minutes. You can see they're nice, beautiful golden brown color. The chips are melted and I'm gonna let them cool probably at least an hour at room temperature. And because I'm going to be cutting them into heart shapes, I put them in the refrigerator and let them cool another hour in the refrigerator before I cut them. I use a heart-shaped biscuit cutter because your heart-shaped cookie cutters aren't quite deep enough. Your biscuit cutter is about 1.5 to 1 3/4 inch deep, and that's deep enough to cut these into some beautiful heart shapes for serving.
There you have it, our delicious coconut dream bars that are cut into a heart shape. You can see it a little better from the back of the dream bar. We cut them into heart shapes with these heart-shaped biscuit cutters. If you go to my website at growwithdrjonette.com, you'll be able to find a link there under the shop section for where you can purchase these biscuit cutters to make your own heart-shaped Valentine's Day special occasion dream bars. I also wanted to mention that when you've finished baking the dream bars, make sure they are cool, probably 2-3 hours. They need to be at room temperature. You can put them in the refrigerator to cool them down a little quicker, but you want them to be at room temperature when you cut them. They're a little difficult to cut because the top is very crispy. So when you take that parchment sling and remove them from the baking pan, you will want to flip them upside down on another piece of parchment paper and actually have them upside down when you cut them with your biscuit cutter. It makes it easier. Also, make sure you press all the way down so that you get cut through this top crunchy layer. Happy baking. Enjoy your heart-shaped coconut dream bars. Thank you for clicking that like button, subscribing. Also, don't forget to sign up for notifications because you're not going to want to miss any of our great videos about health, longevity, recipes for helping you live a longer life, and gardening tips for how you can grow your own organic garden to make sure that what you put into your body is healthy and good for your body. See you next time on the Dr. Jonette channel.